gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power. Spirit, draw near. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power. Spirit, draw near. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power. Spirit, draw near.
Good morning. I was glad to see in the paper this week that the governor has granted me special dispensation to remove my mask when I'm speaking from the pulpit. So I'm still within the request. So I'm trying to encourage everybody to do what it takes to end this once and for all. But welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane, where our mission is to join together to create a nourishing, liberal religious home and to champion justice, diversity, and environmental stewardship in our wider world. Or as we say in short, to create community, find meaning, and work for justice. Great to see everybody here today. I see lots of faces, or half faces, that some of which I haven't seen for a while. So I'm actually not going to name everybody because there's so many of you that I would get myself into trouble. But it's really great to have all of you here from various places. I can say, hi to Jan Trutton because she was a longtime member here, and now she lives, I think, a little bit of everywhere but Spokane. Is that right? He was telling me about all her gallivanting. But anyway, you come back to see us at least once a year. You didn't get to last year, so I'm going to say hi to you in particular. Great to see you. Yeah. Well, let's see. A couple of, well, I guess I should finish welcoming you, because I do like to embrace, as I say each Sunday, all that you bring with you to this space. Your unique beliefs, your background, your lifestyle, your experiences, your differences, your different masks. All are welcome. And this, of course, includes those who are here in the room with us, those who may be visiting us for the first time today, and those of you who are streaming with us. It's always great to know that you're with us as well. You're an important part of the service, so thank you to all for being here. And I do have one announcement, maybe a couple of announcements, but they're related. So a reminder that next Sunday we will not be having services. You can always go online and watch an archive service if you want. However, we are having our entire floor resurfaced this week, and it will not be cured in enough time for us to be back on it by next Sunday. So we'll just forego services next Sunday. But we do ask for those of you who are here and able and willing to help us move the furniture after our service is over. And that will effectively involve grabbing a hymnal or two from where you're at. And there will be some carts up here that you can put them in. So we'll be able to wheel those off. And then we're going to begin by stacking the chairs here in the choir loft. There'll be some folks here stacking, so if you just want to bring the chairs to them, that would be fantastic. And and we'll probably put some chairs on this side as well. The piano is going to go right here, but you don't have to worry about moving that. So, and if for what we can't put up here, we'll probably move back into the chapel. So hopefully it won't take too much time with many hands, and we'll be able to grab some coffee and tea and continue to visit after that. For those of you who are streaming with us, just grab some furniture and reorganize at home if you want to get into the action. You've been waiting, so why not? Okay, so let's take a few moments now to greet one another, and as always, I hope you'll say hi to some folks that you don't know today and make some new friends along the way. All right, despite how that sounded, social hour has not begun yet, but you can enjoy social hour following our service, so I hope you'll stick around to help move some furniture and visit more with one another. Let's move forward now by lighting our chalice, the symbol of our faith, the symbol of our unity and our solidarity, our openness and our inclusion, our community and our individual uniqueness. May this small flame be our offering of warmth to those who are cold and alone, and a light to those in darkness. May it be a flame that ignites justice in our world and a beacon of hope to those in need. And may it reflect at least a spark of truth wherever truth has been lost, and cast a healthy shadow of doubt wherever it's been found.
Our opening words are from Gregory Orr. Orr came to read and write poetry in order to process the grief and despair he felt. after accidentally shooting and killing his brother in a hunting accident when he was a child. His family would not talk about it or about feelings in general, so he turned to poetry for healing. This is his poem, which begins, "The beloved moves through the world, is the world, becomes the 100 things we love, or the one and only thing or person we love, shifting, restless, refusing to incarnate in a final form, as if to teach us to keep our eyes moving if we want to see the bird flitting from bush to tree. There it is, no there. No, it's hidden now, you can't see it, but you can hear its song."
I love this next hymn. It celebrates all of our lives, and the quote, good and the bad, if you want to judge it that way. So please rise as you're willing and able to sing number 128, For All That Is Our Life.
We're now going to kindle our candles of care for those who are most on our hearts and minds this morning. I did not receive any specific request, but I know there is an awful lot going on in our world. That people who are on our hearts and minds certainly are our brothers and sisters in Afghanistan, our brothers and sisters in Haiti, our brothers and sisters who are working in the hospitals trying to deal with an onslaught of patients. So much to be concerned about today. So let's take a moment of silence on behalf of these as well as others you might be thinking of this morning. You'd be welcome to name those aloud at this time if you'd like. those named aloud and those embraced in our silence, and all those who are suffering in our world at this hour, we hold in our community with compassion.
We now gratefully give and receive this morning's offering, which sustains this community and its mission to the larger world.
Hey, let's get over it.
Good morning. At this point, I'd like to invite any children or young at heart to come forward. Max Gronholtz, come on down. It's my own child, refusing to participate. Not refusing to participate, you can participate from wherever you are, even at home. This morning's reading is adapted from Gary Kowalski. Babies don't believe anything. Babies aren't born Buddhists or Baptists or believers of any sort. But soon after we arrive in the world, we start to gather ideas. We pick up beliefs and ideas about people and animals and families. We collect ideas about stars and comets and how it all got started. We accumulate beliefs about good and bad, right and wrong, what's healthy and unhealthy, and what's important in life. All these beliefs, which we get from our parents and playmates, from the TV, and from children's chapel, go into our belief bag. Now, most religions define themselves by what they believe, or what's inside the bag. Christians, for instance, believe in Jesus. Muslims believe in Allah and the Prophet Muhammad. Buddhists believe in the Four Noble Truths. But Unitarian Universalists don't just have one set of beliefs. What makes us different is the way that Unitarian Universalists carry our beliefs, because there are different ways of holding your belief bag. For example, some people hold their bag like this. They clutch it close and make sure the top is tightly sealed because they don't want their beliefs exposed to any new ideas that could threaten what's inside. They've got their world wrapped up in a nice, tidy package. On the other hand, some people are just the opposite. They don't pay much attention at all to what goes inside their bag. One idea is as good as another, and if other folks believe it, or if they read it on the internet, then it must be true. And then there are people who carry their bags like this, like a club that they use to hit other people. What's inside their bag may sound very nice and sweet. For instance, I believe in peace and kindness and the golden rule, but they use their bag like a weapon. You don't believe in peace? Shame on you. But none of those is the Unitarian Universalist way. Instead, we carry our bags like this. We carry it with the top open so that new ideas and experiences can get inside, and old beliefs can be tossed aside if needed. We carry our bags in front of us so that we can see what's going inside, and so that we can share our thoughts with others. And above all, we never use our beliefs to hurt other people. We always show kindness. That's what it means to be a Unitarian Universalist. The next time somebody asks you, what do the people in your church believe? You can tell them. For us, it's less important what you believe than how you hold your beliefs. It's how you acquire them, how you share them, and above all, what you do with them that counts. And I would invite you to sing out the child. There might be one. There might be more. Thank you.
I invite you now to join me as we enter a time of meditation. I'm going to suggest that you take some deep breaths and get into the contemplative mood while we listen to this poem by 11-year-old Orion Missegnia, Heart of Wonder. When I was a baby, my heart was a tiny fish swimming in a gargantuan sea of things to come. When I was a toddler, my heart was a trout in a large lake of thoughts and feelings. Now my heart is becoming a salmon, ready to go to the sea of the troubles I will have to face. When I am old, my heart will be a whale swimming in a sea of memories. When I die, God will become a whaler.
For our reading today, I'm going to ask you to join me for a responsive reading. Number 661. Number 661. And while you're finding number 661, I want to especially thank and welcome Dixie Marshall, who is here as our guest pianist. Always great to have you. Thank you so much. Appreciate your talent and your spirit. And Bryant McKinley, as you heard once, is our guest musician today, and he's going to be playing again before too long here. So I'm going to ask the congregation to be our respondents today, and I'll begin. Number 661. We have a great deal more kindness than is ever spoken. How many persons we meet in houses whom we scarcely speak to, whom yet we honor and who honor us. Read the language of these wandering eye-beams.
Get all ready, take your mask off and everything like. This is the Bob Dylan song. It's a little help for me. My name doesn't matter. You know, my age matters less. I come from a country that they call the U.S. I was taught up and caught the laws to memorize and always remember that we have God on our side. The history books tell us, you know they tell us so well, how the Calvary charged them, the Indians fell. The Calvary charged them, the Indians died. This country was young, we don't have God on the side. Then the Spanish-American War soon had its day. Then the Civil War was also laid away. The names of the heroes I was taught to memorize, with their guns in their hands and God on their side. Then the First World War came, and you know, it was the bloodiest one yet. For fighting, yeah, I never did get, but I learned to accept it with pride, 'cause you don't count your debt, you know, when you have God on your side. The Second World War other side. Well, here we are, and are we having fun? We've got a global pandemic, global warming. We're being cooked by the sun. Sometimes it seems like we're all trying just to commit suicide, with big smiles on our faces and all those gods on our side. Now as I'm leaving, you know I'm weary as hell. Fishing I'm feeling, no tongue can tell. The words fill my mouth and my head, and they just fall to the floor. Don't you think if there really were a God, He would have stopped all these wars?
Hey, let's get over it.
Let's do that. Enough.
If you perform your song twice, I'm going to perform my sermon twice. Thank you, Brian. That was just fantastic this morning. I'm guessing there's a lot of fans of the Twilight Zone in this group. Can I see some hands? Yeah, quite a few. Some okay. It's like you don't hate it, right? Anybody hate it? Get out. No. I'm teasing. So, in one particular episode, you may remember it. It's called Death Heads Revisited, about a Nazi commander who finds himself being tried by the ghost that he murdered at the Dachau death camp during World War II. And his only defense, he repeats, is that I was just following orders. I was just following orders. I was just following orders. At the end of the episode, he goes insane and is escorted off to an asylum when someone asks, Dachau, why does it still stand? Why do we keep it standing? Then during this unusually solemn episode's closing monologue, Rod Serling, the show's enigmatic host, responds, the Dachaus, the Belsens, the Buchenwalds, the Auschwitzes, all of them, they must remain standing because they are a monument to a moment in time when some men decided to turn the earth into a graveyard. Into it, they shoveled all of their reason, their logic, their knowledge, but worst of all, their conscience. And the moment we forget this, the moment we cease to be haunted by its remembrance, then we become the grave diggers. Then for the first and only time in the show's 156 episodes, Serling did not conclude with his famous signature phrase, in the Twilight Zone. He ended by saying, something to dwell on and to remember, not only in the Twilight Zone, but wherever men walk God's earth. Serling was right to go off script in this case, for these monuments of madness must continue to stand in the real world as reminders to help prevent such evils from ever happening again. Unfortunately, we don't always need monuments or ghosts to haunt our memories or to remind us of the grave injustices our species is capable of engaging in. Just this week, we witnessed the tragic end of a 20-year war in Afghanistan that should have never happened. A war in reaction against the terrorist, or supposedly in reaction against the terrorist attacks on 9/11. And that event was the result of the hostility that many in the Muslim world harbor toward America. Hostility rooted at least partly in our country's support of Israel and the resulting plight of the Palestinian people, which began in 1948 at the end of World War II in Germany's horrific attempt to exterminate the Jewish people. But such hostility emanating from the Middle East reaches back further still. Anti-Semitism, hatred for the Jewish people. It had been prevalent throughout much of the world, including here in the United States, long before the rise of Nazi Germany. Hitler only took advantage of this prejudice in his rise to power by offering what he called the final solution to what was considered the Jewish problem by much of the Western world. It took the execution of 6 million human beings, actually a lot more than that, before the Allied forces realized that they would have to come up with a different solution, which was to give the Jewish people who had been dispersed around the world for nearly 2,000 years a place of their own. So in 1947, the United Nations approved giving them the land that has since become modern Israel. Throughout the centuries, despite being homeless and dispersed, rather than eventually melding into the various societies their remnants had fled to, these resilient, remarkable people managed to maintain their Jewish identities. Imagine that. Think about that. Remember, maintaining your identity without a homeland for 2,000 years. Although simply being Jewish, wherever they were, was more than enough for some, many longed for a homeland of their own. At various points in history, places like Argentina, Chile, Uganda, Kenya, Madagascar, Guyana, Russia, as well as others were considered. But after the war, the decision was made to establish the new Israel where it had begun. Long before this, however, even before Christianity had emerged, the Roman Empire captured Jerusalem from the Jews, destroyed it, destroyed their temple, and to add insult to injury, renamed the land after the Jews' legendary enemy, Philistine, or as we now say, Palestine. Despite this ancient injustice, one of the first attempts to eradicate Jews from existence, today's Jewish homeland had been occupied by millions of Palestinian people for nearly 2 millennia. By the time 1947 came around and the United Nations helped forcibly remove them. Another historic injustice that is still having tremendous global repercussions today. As David Ben-Gurion, the State of Israel's founder and first prime minister, once acknowledged, in our political argument abroad, we minimize Arab opposition to us. Let us not ignore the truth among ourselves. Politically, we are the aggressors, and they defend themselves. The country is theirs because they inhabit it, whereas we want to come here and settle down, and in our view, we want to take away from them their country while we are still outside. In the U.S., President Truman also acknowledged this problem, but told those concerned, "I'm sorry, gentlemen, but I have to answer to hundreds of thousands who are anxious for the success of Zionism. I do not have hundreds of thousands of Arabs among my constituents." Perhaps he should have worried about as much at least making hundreds of thousands of resentful enemies. For the result has been almost continuous unrest in the Middle East ever since, as well as decades of terrorist activities around the world. So we find many of our world's worst global hostilities have ancient roots like these, and are only perpetuated by more hostility and violence. We think the war in Afghanistan was 20 years old, the longest war in our nation's history, but it goes back so much farther. And by the way, the drug war is the longest war in American history. And that's another sermon, but so Rod Serling was right in saying that we must not rid ourselves of the monuments necessary for serving as reminders of such madness, of our own madness as a people. But we also must not confuse the erection of these monuments as the origins of such madness, or worse, think that the solution is more of the same kind of madness. The only way to end our ancient resentments and our continuing violence is to see our perceived enemies as human beings who deserve our respect and deserve equal footing in our global community. Right? It's not just about equal rights for Americans now, which we're still struggling for. We have become a global community, so now it's equal rights for all of our neighbors that we need to push for and struggle for and insist upon. And this point is illustrated in a parable, one of my favorites, involving Hazrati Ali, who's considered the founder of Sufism, Islamic mysticism. And as the story goes, he was the close companion of Muhammad himself, and he was once late for the dawn prayer. The prophet who was leading the prayer was about to begin when the angel Gabriel appeared and asked him to wait a little longer. At that moment, Ali was on his way to the mosque, but he had found himself walking behind an old Jewish man. Out of respect for the man's age, Ali did not want to pass him on the street. Because of this respect, Allah, who did not want Ali to miss the benefit of the first prostration of the day, sent Gabriel to delay the beginning of prayers. That's it. It's a simple story with a superficially simple meaning, having respect, superficially meaning, but important, that having respect for one another is the essence of religion, not our religious rules and rituals. Even so, its subtle intricacies are worth even further consideration. For among the 5 pillars of Islam, Shahada, declaring there is only one true God, Allah, and his prophet was Muhammad; Zakat, eliminating inequality through charity; Psalm, ritually fasting, especially during Ramadan; the Hajj, a pilgrimage to Mecca at least once during one's lifetime. None of the pillars is more pervasive than the Salat, requiring Muslims to prostrate themselves in prayer 5 times a day, every day. The very word mosque, the place of worship, for Muslims means place of prostration. From this, it's easy to understand how some might have come to believe that ritual prayer is what epitomizes Muslim faith and practice. To be seen in attendance during prayers is a bit like being seen at church on Sunday mornings, at least in some faiths. One's absence or even one's tardiness in many churches is also sure to be noticed, and certainly for those performing the Salat. Religious rituals are only meant to remind us what is at the heart of all faiths, principles like compassion and justice and peace and mercy. But some followers come to equate their religion with merely performing the rituals, while ignoring the stuff about love and peace. There's so much injustice, therefore, in the name of religion, from so-called holy wars to parents rejecting their own kids for being gay, from ignoring science and facts to burning heretics at the stake, from occupying the lands and homes of others to treating women like chattel, from conning the elderly out of their wealth to flying airplanes into skyscrapers. This common tendency in religion is the reason for these words from Amos in the Hebrew Scriptures. I hate and reject your festivals, and your religious ceremonies stink. I cannot accept your burnt offerings and refuse to look at your animal sacrifices. I can't stand that noise you call singing and music. Instead of all that, let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. When religion is about performing arbitrary rituals and following arbitrary rules at the expense of human welfare and compassion, it becomes a perversion of faith. This is why Jesus said, the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath, meaning that religious laws, like all laws, should benefit human beings, not the other way around. That's why in Ezekiel, Yahweh rejects the commandments engraved in tablets, saying instead, I will remove the heart of stone from their flesh and give them a heart of flesh, so that they may follow my statutes and keep my ordinances and obey them. Right, it is by the heart that we know what Yahweh wants of us. Not the written rules. Love and care ought to be the expression of our religion, not adhering to lifeless rules and rituals at the expense of human kindness and welfare. In light of all this, I wonder if Hazrati Ali worried what others would think of him when he showed up late for prayer. How would he be judged for not following the letter of the law? What consequences might he suffer? Several years ago, I met with an envoy from the Middle East, during which I sat next to a Syrian woman during lunch, an attorney working on her PhD, which made her unusual, who was telling me about how difficult it was to be a liberated and educated woman in her country, how much judgment there is, including from other women, because she didn't know her place, as they would say. When she suddenly looked around and realized that her companions had all left the room to attend noontime prayers. Her eyes widened, her cheeks blushed. She stood in a panic, apologized, and abruptly dashed away to find her cohorts. Liberated as she was still bound by the Salat, her duty to pray 5 times a day, and she dreaded facing the stigma associated with running late for prayers. Ali would have felt this same trepidation, yet he could not bring himself to disrespect the old Jewish man on the road, because at least intuitively he understood that such respect and consideration was far more important within the Salat, even if doing so is among the 5 pillars of Islam. Nor was his tardiness merely a matter of respecting his elders. In this case, the old man was Jewish, meaning Ali was showing greater respect to a non-Muslim, and we can assume a non-Arab, than he was for his own Islamic faith. In doing so, he demonstrated the heart of flesh rather than the heart set in stone. For me, this is the point that makes this parable so special and gets at the core of its meaning. Not only is it more important to show kindness, compassion, and respect than to attend to the commands and rituals of our religions, but it is important to do this for all persons, whether we agree with them or not, whether they are believers in our religion or not. This is what the word respect means: to re-see, to spectate, to respectate, to look twice, to give somebody a second look. Beyond our superficial prejudices that only see the infidel, the heretic, the dissenter, the wrong religion, the wrong color, the wrong gender, the wrong country, or what have you. To respect others is to look at them again, to see them for who they are, beneath what we see on the surface, in order to recognize in everyone our own common humanity, the worth and dignity of every person, as we say. And the road that these two strangers, who are different in race and religion and age, are upon is more than just a road. It is a metaphor of the path that each of us is on, no matter our differences. As Master Morihi Ueshiba, the founder of Aikido, the Way of Harmony, once said so beautifully, there are many paths leading to the top of Mount Fuji, but there is only one summit, love. And Gandhi, the great soul, once said similarly, different religions are different roads, converging to the same point, which is especially significant given what the Mahatma experienced while living in South Africa, where it was illegal for him to walk on the pavement if there was a white man walking on it at the same time. Recognizing that no matter our faith, no matter our color, no matter where we are from, that we are all worthy of walking together in our journeys toward truth and meaning, was a realization born from Gandhi's own pain that he managed to transform into compassion for everyone. Understanding that Ali also lived in a world where some were looked down upon and considered unworthy of walking on the road gives greater meaning to Ali's unwillingness as a Muslim to disrespect the old Jewish man and his way, preventing him from fulfilling his own religious obligations. It was a big deal. But Ali understood something more important, that his religion does not own the truth and therefore does not own the road. He understood, as Rumi, the great Sufi poet, saying that all religions, all this singing is one song, the differences are just illusion and vanity. This point about the true nature of religion is driven home when Allah Himself, pleased with Ali's act of respect and compassion, intervenes on his behalf by sending the archangel Gabriel to delay the beginnings of prayer so that Ali will not be late. And this sounds pretty simple, but it refers to a lot more than just saying, hey, let's wait a few more minutes until Ali gets here. No, the reason Gabriel is sent is because the situation requires divine intervention. In this case, Gabriel is bending time itself in order to accommodate Ali. And this is often the case in Sufi parables, that Allah will alter time and space if that's what it takes to prove His compassion and mercy. Allah will bend time and space to be merciful. So, why can't we bend the rules a little for the same purpose? It reminds me of another parable of the road you may be more familiar with, in which a Jewish priest and a religious scholar passed by a man who's been beaten and left for dead by robbers on the roadside. The scripture says that each of them passed on the other side. They went around. Contrast this heartless behavior with that of Ali, who could not bring himself to pass the old man. It isn't until a Samaritan from Samarian, a non-Jew, who would have been looked down upon these two religious experts, comes along to give care to the injured man. Which of these three do you think is the true neighbor? Jesus asked. And this is a good question for people of any religion to ask themselves, to ask ourselves. What does it really mean to be a good neighbor? What does it mean to put our faith into practice? Is it about giving the most money, or singing our hymns on Sunday mornings, or getting to the church on time? I know that's not a problem for Unitarians. We're never at church on time, and nobody bats an eye. Or is it about showing compassion for others, including those who look and think and worship differently than we do? Is it to offer the best sacrifices and incense and music, or is it, as Micah says, to do justice and to love mercy and to be humble about our religion? It actually says to walk humbly with your God, right? Which is precisely what Ali is doing in that road by staying behind the old Jewish man. There are so many different kinds of people interacting in our world today, in our small world, in our shrinking world, which means we are all together now and must learn, as the bumper sticker says, to share the road. Today we need to be more tolerant and more compassionate than ever if we're going to thrive together as a global community. Yet today, ancient hostilities in the Middle East continue to rage in a land where Jews and Muslims cannot always share the same road, or live in the same neighborhoods, or have the same rights. How many others are there around the world, in our own country, in our own community, whom we cross the street to avoid, or are willing to bypass along our way? There is, for instance, a growing housing crisis in our nation, an alarmingly growing housing crisis in our nation that's making it too expensive for even working people to keep their homes or to rent their apartments. We see them on almost every downtown corner in every American city as we drive our road and walk our streets. How long as a society will we cross to the other side when we see them, rather than, like Ali, slow down to recognize, respect, and care about what's happening right in front of us? How long as a society will we continue to have roads in which it feels unsafe for many blacks to drive, without fearing for their lives? How many do we pass on our ways to our churches and our synagogues and our temples who don't have adequate health care or shelter or food or security and the sense of belonging necessary to lead a happy life, to fully unfold as human beings? I began by mentioning Rod Serling, known mostly, of course, for hosting the Twilight Zone. But Serling was also an American Jew who grew up during a period of tremendous anti-Semitism in our nation, who experienced its prejudice and hostility firsthand. In fact, in order to marry his non-Jewish girlfriend, Serling had to convert from Judaism to Unitarianism before he could be allowed. And even then, her wealthy parents permanently disowned her for marrying a Jew. Serling also became a bona fide World War II hero, and later a peace activist who protested Vietnam. You can see this tension in a lot of his episodes. By the way, I'll branch off for just a second. Serling, he was one of the most celebrated television writers in the golden age of television. Just award-winning, but he wrote dramas. And he had written a drama that was going to be about the Emmett Till story. And by the time the sponsors and producers got to it, they had just turned it into a few misguided youth who had beat up an old Jewish man. And Serling was enraged. And he gave up drama forever. Said, I can tell my truths through science fiction. And when once interviewed by Dan Rather, I believe, Dan Rather said, "You're going to stop doing anything serious for television?" And of course, the Twilight Zone was born. He was an amazing man. Serling knew what it was to be passed by and disrespected in the streets. And he knew what it was like to go to war against others. Yet he had advised us never to forget such things, not for the purpose of holding a grudge or to feel ashamed, but so that we don't keep repeating the same ancient hostilities over and over again. Let's slow down. Give those before us a second look and do what we can to care for one another. If we can't do this much, then the rest is meaningless. Thank you.
Please rise for our closing hymn of the morning, number 34, Though I May Speak with Bravest Fire.
And heaven give to
Our benediction this morning comes from Emily Dickinson, who said, "All I know of love is is all there is. All I know of love is all there is." Amen. Blessed be. Salam alaikum and shalom.
I'm teaching piano. Studio. I've been teaching, since a year ago March. Yeah, right. Online. So, yeah. And I was hoping I'd be able to open this fall, but with the influx of